The National Prosecutions Authority has recently announced that President Jacob Zuma has been given until the 30th of November to submit representations to the National Directorate of Public Prosecutions. This comes after the Supreme Court of Appeal upheld a High Court ruling to reinstate 783 corruption charges against the President. For more on this, on the process followed, we are joined from our Pretoria studio by Luvuyo Mfaku, who is the spokesperson for the National Prosecuting Authority. Good to have you, Luvuyo. Thank you very much for joining us again on Morning Live.
Good morning, Leanne. Thanks for the opportunity.
So let's give a little bit of perspective here. So the Supreme Court of Appeal upheld that High Court ruling earlier this month to reinstate the 783 corruption charges against Mr. Zuma that were withdrawn in 2009. There were some expectations that the MPA would make decision on the charges, perhaps to go ahead, institute court proceedings against President Zuma. Is that fair to say? Why has it now been moved to the 30th of November?
Leanne, we accept that when the SCA set aside the decision to withdraw the matter, the decision to prosecute stands. However, there are preliminary issues that have to be addressed before you re-enroll any matter. In the instant case, the police have indicated that they need at least 30 days to establish the availability of witnesses and their willingness to testify. Now, the National Director deemed it prudent to give the President an opportunity to make representation while that process is ongoing.
But what I understand is it has to be new representations, something that hasn't been heard before.
In our letter to the lawyers of the President, we stipulated in no uncertain terms that issues that were ventilated in the past and that the SCA reflected to in the judgment, those issues will not be considered. They must actually bring to the table new issues.
Days before the Supreme Court of Appeal judgment was delivered, the NPA was requested by President Zuma's lawyers to afford him an opportunity to have his representations rationally considered, to submit such further representations, which, as may be necessary in light of developments and that have been reported on in the media and which may impact on the integrity of the investigation, and not to institute any court proceedings against President Zuma prior to having considered his representations. Do you anticipate that the courts, did you anticipate this judgment by the court?
The National Director on the 14th of September, when the matter was argued in the SCA, he wrote to the head of the Hawks inquiring about the availability of documentary evidence as well as the issues relating to witnesses. That was done in anticipation of the judgment. You must recall that after our legal counsel discovered before the arguments in the SCA that there were contradictory affidavits filed, he then filed supplementary heads, bringing to the attention of the court that in fact the decision by Advocate Mche to review the decision is contrary to what the decision of the SCA by Harams said, that the National Director cannot review his own decision. That was brought to the attention of the court by the National Director, hence he anticipated the processes.
Can you give us a timeline on the processes that will follow after the submissions have actually been made?
He has given the President until the 30th of November to submit their representations. The investigation team has indicated that they need at least 30 days. Now, if you look at it, these timelines are very stringent. The National Director wants to ensure that there is finality as far as this matter is concerned.
Indeed, I imagine, but it comes at quite a critical and crucial time, because it's just maybe just a few weeks before the elective conference is set to take place for the ANC. So it's a very busy and difficult time. Why the 30th of November? I mean, I know I'm emphasizing the date, but why has it been pushed so far out?
When we get a request for representation, as a general rule, we give the parties about 6 weeks to submit the representations. We've done the same in respect of this case. There's nothing unusual about giving them 6 weeks. We do it on a daily basis. And if you recall, the National Director had reviewed the decision of the DPP in KZN to withdraw charges against Mundu and Pandey. They then, after he had decided to prosecute them, wrote to him stipulating that he must not re-enroll the matter before they submit papers for judicial review. He acceded to that request.
I want to talk about other issues as well, just in the short time that we've been given. Again, I remember you coming into studio and we were talking about the sluggishness of the state capture investigations and what the NPA is doing about this. But when we now look at the movement that's been taken from the FBI out of the United States, as well as in Britain, that they are coming in fast and furiously investigating these claims of state capture of companies that may be involved, that are in their company. I mean, does that not make you feel the pressure even more that you will come in with the state capture investigation and report? What is going on this?
The Hawks would be best placed to respond to that question. They have indicated in no uncertain terms that they are investigating issues relating to state capture, and recently they indicated that they would engage with their counterparts, that is the FBI. As the NPA, we have that team of prosecutors that is giving the necessary prosecutorial guidance to the investigators. That team is still doing that, and we do engage with our counterparts in terms of mutual legal assistance, but we would not divulge the countries that we engage with because issues relating to mutual legal assistance are confidential.
Another issue, just a final one, given the time we have, AfriForum coming out saying that they're going to now proceed with their very, very first prosecution and try and take that to case, and that, of course, being the president's son, Duduzane Zuma. What do you make of this, and what are your thoughts surrounding this particular trial or case that should get underway?
They have written to the Director of Public Prosecutions in Joburg. He has to consider their request whether it's in line with Section 7 of the Criminal Procedure Act, which stipulates that they must have peculiar and substantial interest. If their request is sanctioned by the family, I would imagine that the National Director, the DPP would consider it favorable. But I've seen the report by the prosecutor. We've got nothing to worry about. We did our job diligently in terms of that decision.
We leave it there for this morning. Thank you very much for the update there. Lots to cover when we're joined by Luvuyo Mfaku, who is, of course, the spokesperson for the National Prosecuting Authority. But the main theme of that particular interview, taking a look at the NPA announcing that President Jacob Zuma has been given until the 30th of November to submit representations to the National Directorate of Public Prosecutions. Let's take a break. We will have lots more for you after this. Do stay tuned.